Okay, my name is Bill Gianni, and I am the council commissioner. And I was asked to conduct this training. This training was put together by a lodge chief from a different lodge. We'll see at the end of it, give him due credit, because whoever did it, I forget his name off the top of my head, but he did a real excellent job. And so I left the last slide in for that. What we're going to talk about is the relationship between the lodge and the council. And that can get dodgy at times, depending upon where you're at. And when I was lodge advisor, I went up to visit a lodge with up in the Washington, D.C. area. And that lodge is the largest lodge in the Or-To-Yeh-Hut-Tee. And I said, what's your biggest issue you can deal with? And they said, my chapter's working with districts. Because there was always a misunderstanding of what the chapter was going to do with regards to the district and vice versa. Okay, I gotta figure out where it is. Oh, so you turn it on. This is high speed, you know, television screen, and not used to this kind of stuff. Okay, let's talk about the council. What do you think the council is? Don't read that. What do you think the council is?
A set of people that are more wise than others. A set of people that are more wise than others.
Well, yeah, no. A lot of people, when you say this, when I ask that question with adults, they say, well, it's that building at 275 in Tampa, off of 275. That's a building. The council is, like this says, it's a voluntary association of citizens. It's a bunch of people who, for the most part, represent the organizations that charter the The Greater Tampa Bay Area Council is chartered by the National Council of the Boy Scouts of America to provide scouting in this geographical area. It covers 9 counties. And to do that, you need a structure. And that structure is, in fact, the council. Everyone in this room is the council. Now, what you do see, everybody here is part of the council because it is a legal entity. The council is a corporation, and we'll get to some of that as I move forward. There's 4 functions that the council has to do, is chartered to do, and that is to grow membership. You can't have scouting if you don't have members. So that's the first function of the council. The second one is fund development, money. You can't run a business without money. You don't have buildings like this without money. The council's responsible for making sure that units have good programs. And at the council level, that program is that the council provides the opportunity to have good programs. Buildings like this, camps like the 5 camps we have, and all the resources that go into those camps. That's a council responsibility. And the final one is one that I am most concerned about as the council commissioner, unit service. And we'll get into that in a little more detail as we go forward. Now, I'm going to talk about some specific jobs at the council level. I'm going to start with my job. I am your council commissioner. I hope I have good character and standing within the community, somebody will say this and that. It could be marginal. And I'm supposed to be organized well enough, understand administrative procedures, communicate those procedures, and provide leadership to the core of commissions. Now, what is my job? I have a job description that includes all that stuff. But it also includes that I'm the senior uniformed volunteer in the council. I represent everybody in the council who wears a uniform. That's my job. And I'm also the chief morale officer of the council. And I'm the council's leading cheerleader. I've got the best job, except for being advisor to the Uh-To-Yeh-Hut-Tee, except being a lodge advisor, that you can have as an adult in this county. Because I get to go out and see people and watch stuff being done. And see but I answer to somebody. I answer to the council president. Now, he is a senior volunteer in the council. I am lucky with regards to that. He has to have all these characteristics, and he's doing a bang-up job. His name is Peter Collins. He's an Eagle Scout. He expects performance. He demands performance, and he gets it because he demands it. But he does things like, he's responsible for training everybody who's a volunteer in the council, not going out and doing that training himself. But he's, you know, he has a vice president program. We have a bunch of people like that to do that. But what he does is that he coordinates. The council has, as a corporation, it has a board of directors, which in scouting is called the executive board. The chief is a member of the executive board. I'm a member of the executive board. Mr. Hale's a member of the executive board. Mr. Romanoli. We've got several board members here. That board meets 4 times a year and does all the guidance, sets the rules for the council, and makes decisions about spending money, and charts the course for the council. We also have an executive committee that is made up of the officers of the council. I sit on the executive committee. The president, of course, chairs it. There's vice presidents of program. Mr. Dag is vice president of properties. We have vice presidents that cover a lot of territory. Mr. Collins' job is to keep us straight and on that path and doing what we're supposed to be doing. Both he and I are members of the National Council as well, by virtue of our offices. It means that if we had a national meeting, and we haven't had one for 2 years because of COVID, we're automatically voting for the council. The third member of the key 3, and that's where you get to. The key 3 is the president, the commissioner, and the scout exec. He's a professional. Mr. Reese is a professional. He was hired by the executive board to provide the day-to-day supervision of the council. He is the chief executive officer of the council. And you see, when you look at these various job descriptions that he has, you know, he's the secretary, that's a formal title, he's the secretary of all of the executive board and of the executive committee, and of any committees that the council might have. But he doesn't attend all those meetings, let's be realistic. His biggest job is he appoints and hires and supervises the professionals who work for the council. Mr. Mariner. His boss is Mr. Roots. My job as commissioner, Mr. Collins' job as president, members of the executive board are tasked to hire the scout exec. And the scout exec hires his own staff. Don't, a very seasoned scouting volunteer told me one time when I first went on the executive board, never get involved in professional or administrative hirings and firings. We hired a scout exec to do that. We don't do that. And he's absolutely right. And he's responsible to make sure that the books balance at the end of the year, that the staff is doing their job. He hires and fires the staff. He has fired staff. It does happen. But that's his job. Now, what's your job? What's the order's job with the council? Again, a beautiful slide. You know, you have meetings. Wow, that's really enlightening. You have meetings. What really does the OA do for the council? One, it helps to support the 4 functions of the council. A successful OA lodge has members and is growing and retains its members. I can tell you as a former scoutmaster, as a former lodge advisor, that if the lodge is doing its job, older young men and women stay in the program longer. Now, how many of you are in a troop? And how many of you are 16 or older? You like working with 11-year-old brand new scouts?
No.
You know, do you want to be senior patrol leader when you're 17 and a half years old? Some do, but a lot of people don't. The lodge can, but if you get involved in the lodge, you help retention. Kids stay longer if they belong to the Order of the Arrow and actively participate in the Order of the Arrow. You know what all these activities are. Fellowship weekends, participation in events like section conferences and NOAC and things like that. That's all what you guys do. But you do something a little more less visible. And that is, believe it or not, you're the biggest single financial contributor to the council. This lodge provides a lot of money in the form of Friends of Scouting and in the form of fellowship donations that make up a good, you're the largest contributor, the largest volunteer contributor to that. And the work that you get done on weekends that are not a training weekend is critical for the survival of the camps. We have 5 properties. When you saw me sitting at the table there, when you first came in, we were talking about the maintenance that needs to be done on these 5 properties and how to prioritize it and where to get the money from and deciding if it's work that we can all do as part of the order or not. Okay? Now, what's the district? Do you know? Go ahead, right there.
Will or Drew? Yellow?
Yellow, gray.
Drew, go.
All right, you, come on. What? I know you guys, you're not shy. Speak up.
All right, the district is smaller portions of the council.
That's a good way to do it. It is a division of the council. It is difficult in a council that runs from Inverness in the north down to Lake Placid in the south, and from the Gulf to the border of Polk County. For the chief, for the scout exec to run that 9 counties is very difficult to do. So we're divided up into districts. Districts are the execution arm of the council. That's where the work is supposed to get done. And it helps. You help the districts in this regard too. Now, we are not organized in this lodge with a chapter for each district. A lot of councils and a lot of lodges do it that way, and a lot of lodges don't do it that way. They combine they combine chapters that cover more than one district, like we have here. You know, where you're sitting now. This chapter covers more than a single district. But again, how do you help with the districts? Whatever you do to support your district or districts directly helps support the council at large. And I told you, financially, you support us financially, and you help your money, the money that the lodge contributes to the council helps support the districts. You know, it's not funded straight down, and we don't, you know, the council budget doesn't work that way. But that's how you do. Membership. The lodge, again, I'm going to stop my foot. In the Army, when you taught stuff, if it was going to be on the test, the instructor would stop his foot several times. I'm stopping my foot on this. The lodge helps membership throughout the council because you're involved in the lodge. If you're involved in the lodge, you're going to stay involved with your units. And that helps get new members and retain the members that we have in the various units. I got a study the other day in the mail. The Service Territory Commissioner sent me the study. And it was done in 2019. But before COVID, it was done before COVID, but it's still valid today. And what they did was they surveyed, the National Council of Boy Scouts surveyed parents of Cub Scouts who joined and then quit. They surveyed parents of Scouts BSA members between the ages of 10 and a half and 13 who left. And then they surveyed Scouts BSA over the age of 14 who left. And they asked them, why did you leave? The Cub Scout parents said the primary reason they left was the unit didn't communicate with them, or the unit had poor leadership, or the unit had poor program. That's a gut punch if you're the council commissioner and you see stuff like that. The parents of the Scouts BSA said the same thing. They worded, the surveys were worded differently, but they said the same thing. The Scouts who left, what do you think the primary reason that Scouts over the age of 14 left?
Lack of leadership.
Bored.
Everybody else was too young, maybe, and they felt they were...
That's one of the things. They were tired of working with younger kids.
Nobody was active.
Yep, poor leadership, it is true. But what do you think the biggest single reason was?
Most of the activities were geared towards the younger scouts.
That played in there, but the biggest single reason.
They weren't having fun.
That's absolutely the case. But no, the biggest single reason was they earned a rank of Eagle Scout
And got bored.
and they left.
Yeah.
That was the biggest single reason that they all left. Now, the stuff you said was absolutely true. That, absolutely true. But the biggest single reason was, I had my eagle see ya. And why did they do that? Because of all the reasons that you just said. The units weren't providing fun, they weren't doing this, the activities didn't interest them anymore. It was focused on, all I do is take care of younger kids and things like that. But most of you, how many Eagle Scouts in the room? Yeah, you old farts.
This counts too, sir.
I know you do. But seriously, you know, you have Eagle Scouts here, people working that are close to Eagle. They're here, they're still participating in program. That is seen by the units, they see that as well. And then we get right there. The fact that the lodge exists, and the fact that your chapters exist, help the council, help scouting in because you do participate in your units. And your examples for those younger scouts to stay around as well. You know, this is a tough one because right now we don't have an active summer camp program. But I know that the chief, the weeks we had mini camps and stuff like that, and in fact I came out and ate the free ice cream and stuff like that. But the Ordinary helps, especially when you have summer camps, with one, staffing the summer camps, and two, having activities at the camps, and promoting the camps and get people to go to camp. You are actually doing that even though we don't have a full summer camp program. You know, every time that you come, every time we have a weekend event, that is helping the camp. And one thing that I wanted to do when I was lodge advisor, we really didn't get it done because there's a lot of stuff that doesn't get done when you want it to get done. But community service, you know, the lodge can be a real good tool of community service. And I know that the chief is thinking about how to do that now because I do listen when the chief talks. And I do hear what he's promoting to do. But by your example, you're helping with all these things in program. Not just the physical labor that you do. You know, I know that we have a council camporee coming up this winter, I guess. And the lodge has volunteered to be the service corps for that. So, you know, that's how you can help. Now, the chapters. Like I say, if you have an active chapter, and I know we have some real active chapters, because somebody hasn't taken me off the distribution list of all the emails. So I get the emails about chapter activities, and I know that a lot of the chapters now are doing what we want them to do. The lodge supports the council, the chapters help the districts. And how do you help the district? You know, one, if you attend roundtable, if you have your meetings the same time as roundtable, if the districts are doing roundtables, and I'm talking hypothetically here because we're still in a COVID world, but once we're not in a COVID world, you know, leaders see, non-OA leaders see you all at those chapter meetings. Non-OA scouts who are there see y'all. If your district is having a camporee or a merit badge academy or something like that, a lot of times the chapters will help out with that sort of situation. You know, I've been trying to figure this one out since the vice chief asked me to teach this, and I still can't figure it out. But suffice to say, if you know, just say districts. Yeah, you know, basically, here's what they're trying to say, I believe what it's trying to say is that if the council's functioning right, the districts will be functioning right, but it actually is the other way around. If the districts are functioning right, you can be sure that the council is functioning right. Maybe. But then you have the situation of where you know, I used to be vice president of programming of the council a long time ago. And we had a lot of council level activities that were done. But I used to tell every unit leader, Cub Masters or Scout Masters, if you're expecting me to plan your program, you're going to fail. So, you know, it's basically districts are supposed to be helping, providing some program, but not all the program for all the units and things like that. I guess that's what he's trying to say. Ties of brotherhood, the OA exists only because the Boy Scouts of America exists. Wouldn't have an Order Arrow if the Boy Scouts of America didn't exist. There's one lodge per council, and the most important thing on this slide is the last one. The council district is the lifeline of youth membership for the OA. But flip it on its side. Now, what are the OA positions? You have the lodge chief. He's a member of the executive board. And he's expected to be a participating member of the executive board. He doesn't come into the board meetings and sit there and just look good. Because he's usually the only one in uniform. But he's not just there to look good. The council president will turn to him and say, well, what do you think? That's rare nowadays, because most of the time, you see there where it says, well, he's probably on the camping committee. He is a member of the camping committee. But in our council, he's a member of the board, by the bylaws of the council. You know, your chapter chiefs, if you're a chapter chief, your district committee, your district chairman should be asking you to attend district committee meetings. And if they aren't, let me know. And I will remind them that they're supposed to, you should be attending district committee meetings and be an active participant in that. Because you speak for the youth. Just like I speak for everybody who wears a uniform, you speak for the youth. And then, you know, we have separate events. We have chapter ordeals and things like that. And there is Noah McGovern did this presentation. I thought he got a real good job, except for that one slide that he totally confused me. And the two guys here working with me on bylaws will tell you, I don't usually get totally confused. I get bewildered a little bit, but not totally. Anybody have any questions about what your relationship as a member of the OA is with the council or with your district? Let me leave you with this. If you're a chapter chief and you are not being invited to meetings, let me know. And I will see that you get invited to meetings because you're important. We don't have, the council is a business, but the council would not exist if we didn't have scouts. And you know, because you're OA members, that you're best of breed in scouting. No questions? Thank you very much.